Hello everybody, and just here and welcome back to Isekai Shikkaku, episode 11, the penultimate one. So, I presume we're not going to finish this arc in today's episode. We're gonna continue it until the very end. In which... I don't know, honestly, what's gonna happen. I mean, we are going after... Who? Who will... who was it? Oh, Wolf got kidnapped. Yeah. That's what happened. That's what happened, exactly. Okay, I remember now. So, in the previous episode... we started with a siege of a... that wasn't a temple. That was a dwarven stronghold. But Wolf, one of the priests, Annette's colleague, you could say, was also there to help them with his magic, because he's like, what moniker did they give him? Like Lord of Hurricanes, Hurricane Mage, something like that. He's really good with wind magic. And sure enough, he actually was really good with that magic. He was able to destroy an army very easily. Unfortunately, there was someone else caught in his hurricane, and that was our sensei's coffin. So they finally made it here, not quite to the temple yet, but into its vicinity, and they have a contact with Wolf, so now they can ask for the whereabouts of what's her face, of Satchan. So goal basically achieved, if not for the whole siege business situation. The group of other welders who defeated the Demon King, right, and then took over his place, are attacking. To what end exactly, we don't really know. We know that they basically desire world domination. How does world domination stand? How is world domination blocked by that particular stronghold? I don't know. They're attacking. That's what matters. And what happens next? Actually, right. We see some more from the perspective. No, before that. In this same episode, I'm gonna say, we see some bits and pieces from the perspective of the bad guys, right? From the perspective of Satchan and the butler guy, as they say that it's time to send someone else to the stronghold, and perhaps this time we will let a woman handle that, and so they send Yuriko, the schoolgirl-looking girl, to take care of it. So that happens, and we also know we also see Satchan's like red string of fate glowing, which I guess kinda tells her that she's getting closer to Osamu or something like that, probably. So that's a whole another thing. Meanwhile, in the whatchamacallit, in the stronghold, we have first of all, we have Melos fall in love with Melozette, with female Melos that Wolf has with him, and Osamu decides to help Melos get the heart of his beloved, and so they follow Melozette and Wolf around for a little bit, and they see Wolf arrive at the door of some building in the city, where he speaks to a woman, apparently, and from the contents and the context, you could surmise that there is something a little bit more connecting them than just being acquaintances. Yeah, so that happens. Then we have another attack on the stronghold, of course, this time led by Yuriko, with a dragon and whatnot, and Wolf would be able to defeat the dragon if not for the fact that he recognized Yuriko. As it turns out, she was his student. She was one of the other welders who arrived here, and one of the other welders that Wolf actually taught. He was very much of the he belonged to the school of thought, essentially, that said, if another worlder arrives here, we should teach them most that we can, right? We should make them grow stronger so that they can help us better. Unfortunately, after he taught Yuriko and made her stronger, and presumably she defected to the evil side, he decided that, yeah, maybe that's another way. Maybe the other worlders can actually be evil and actually use my teachings against me, and that's basically exactly what happens. Although he still has a lot of sentiment for her, so he was unable to strike her. And she instead grabbed him and took him to the evil stronghold of the former demon lord, I assume. She has like a magic that takes life force. I think that's the power, right? Because she's the fallen angel of greed, right? So that's a thing. So Wolf has been kidnapped, and it's up to our heroes to rescue him. They get brand new gear. Everybody except Osamu. Osamu probably ordered some sort of a self-driving coffin or something. But Annette, Tama, and Nier get new sets of armor. Weapons? No, they keep their weapons, I believe, but yeah, they get brand new armor. Decent looks, more or less. I'm not a huge fan of all those redesigns, but Nier could definitely keep his, so we'll see how that goes. And they set off to rescue Wolf, and they set off on a bus. Because the leader of the gang that we've seen attacking the orphanage arrives and says that because Nier saved his life, he turned a new leaf. Now he uses his power of turning monsters and animals into vehicles to run a bus service. So he grabs some sort of a wild cat, turns that cat into a bus, and we can travel that way. He doesn't want to let Osamu on board. To nobody's surprise, right? Osamu was the one who indirectly killed his scorpion after all. So Osamu is left behind with the, as it turns out, old lady who was the person who Wolf visited. Right, because like a bit before that happened, Osamu tried to look for a lead as to where... No, he wasn't looking for a lead where Wolf is. Oh, that's my cat having an issue with a hairball. You can probably hear it. Yeah, sorry for that. In any case, Sensei found her and found out that she's not some young girl that Wolf fell in love with, but rather a fairly aged lady. We don't know if it's the case where Wolf is an elf, so he's long-lived, so she's aged and he did not. My running theory is that Yuriko was the one who took her life force and thus turned her old. I don't know. We'll see more about it. She's a very mysterious character so far, barely speaking and just going with the flow, even as Osamu just carries her around. So we'll see where that whole entire storyline goes. Yeah, we're gonna see that in this episode, so how about we just watch it, right? That was a very short intro. I had very long intros recently, so that's nice for a change. You're gonna need your subs to follow along with me. I'm gonna need my sound to hear what's going on in the show, and I'm gonna have to ask you for support. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon, YouTube down below, or not. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you nothing and helps a lot. And with that, we can start watching episode 11 of Isekai Shikkaku in 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, they all grew old. Okay. I know why my intros were running long recently, because pretty much every time I was giving an update on the flood situation. If you didn't know, my city is flooding, so that's fun. Supposedly, the river nearby is not supposed to flood, so that's good. Except it did flood. On the other side, thankfully. So my neighborhood is still safe. but a pretty big park and a cemetery are flooded. So, not ideal, but better than my building flooding. Then again, I live on like the 8th floor, so probably not gonna reach me. Safe to assume that. There's a big hubbub in the city center though, because the biggest river flows through there, and most of the like archives and churches and whatnot get the bright idea to move the most valuable like books and documents and shit to the basements. And now they're frantically looking for help of people who will help them carry all that stuff up. Amazing planning. Now, granted, last time the river flooded was in like 97, so, quite a bit ago, but it did flood, so of course it can flood again. Okay. Oh, I guess the bus guy is coming with us. What's that on the pedestal? Is it a pedestal? Oh, that's not a pedestal, that's a ribbon. Greed, not gluttony. Gluttony has already been defeated. Gonna spawn some skeletons. Yeah, some CG skeletons. Good old CG skeletons. Yeah, and now it's kinda going against him. Okay, Nier is actually getting into the thick of combat. That's good. Yeah, they are undead. You can't really kill them. Okay, hence greed. Being, you get what you desire, or is there something deeper to that? Yeah, very good question, actually. Why does she have a grudge? Fuck you mean isn't suited to combat? She can just use her tendrils and suck out the life force of anybody. It's like a perfect combat ability. She lost quite a bit of shine from her eyes. Oh, she had a crush on him. So, was I correct in my assumption that the issue is essentially a jealous girlfriend? Well, not a girlfriend, but jealousy. Because Wolf loved another, right? Of course, he found another student. Yep. Well, she looks very similar. Also a bow in her hair. Reddish eyes, blackish hair. Of course. Jealous of the affection in hopes of getting his affection back. But he had another. Huh. What happened to her, I wonder? Is she the old lady? Oh, and that made her power awaken. Yep. That's a cool looking crow thing. And that's when her eyes went dark. And that's when she took the bow. Yeah, I mean, Wolf kind of fucked up. Gotta say. He kind of fucked it up. You don't have favorites as a teacher, especially if you're working with the equivalent of like human fucking WMDs. You gotta be very careful in your approach. No Longer Human is the title of one of the books by Osamu Dazai, right? Sensei? Steam-powered coffin. Amazing. The peak of dwarven engineering. I love it. You could say so. I love this track, by the way. To whom? To Satchan? To the old lady? That's the student that was consumed by the pit, right? So she didn't die. She just was aged up. Younger sister? They were sisters? Huh? Or is she not the student that Yuriko was jealous of, but rather her sister randomly came to this world as well? And I noticed they have their new gear in the card. Yeah, very good question. Right, hence the origami cranes that she's been seen making even in this world. Yeah, real Mother Teresa. I mean, basically, Mother Teresa wasn't the greatest person, so. I must know the end. Exactly. I mean, yeah, predictable. Yep. The perfect story. And then she chased after her. I mean, chased, quote unquote. Yeah, she couldn't be free from the burden even in this world. Except, you know, not really a burden, but you know what I mean. That's a cool monster design, by the way. Okay, sure. Gotta note down silence. Yeah, rapidly aging. Yeah, he's not writing your story, Wolf. Exactly. You're just an NPC here. He is menacing. Like, he has that weird way of being menacing while just walking. And he's persuasive. She wanted to go to school, but she had to stay with her sister. Oh, graduation. She wanted a bow. She wanted her father's attention. Yep. She wanted to go to the graduation ceremony with her father. Yeah, she wanted the recognition. And that's when she got struck. No. Hmm. No, because of you. Oh man, that really sucks being a sibling of a child who's like bedridden. I mean, it sucks if the parents suck. It sucks doubly so. You can solve it decently well, of course, if you're a decent human being as a parent and you take care of the needs of both of your children. But if the parents suck, then one of the children will be absolutely destroyed. And it's not going to be the child who's sick. Black tears again. I mean, the fact that you cry over the fact that you almost got your sister killed means that you do care, that you are caring. So, true. Yeah, I mean, she was kind enough to care after her sister, after all, instead of, I don't know, running away or becoming a delinquent or whatever, right? Because her sister never came back. Yeah, that's the kimono that she was isekai'd in. Mm-hmm. Clear tears, no longer black. Kinda, yeah. I'm not gonna say you didn't, man. Because she wasn't able to live freely in the real world. Or, well, the, Earth, I'm gonna say. Mm-hmm. Crazy how much a bit of talking to each other would have changed, right? Okay, so are they getting de-isekai'd? Are they getting reverted in age, or at least the older sister? Or what's gonna be the end of this story? Well, that's her powers gone, and all that her powers caused gets reverted. Okay. So I guess they're not getting the isekai'd. Which makes sense. It wouldn't be the best ending if they did, because the sister would go back to being sick. Or maybe they are. Fuck if I know. Sensei's powers work however they need to work. There's no rhyme or reason, really. I'm going back to caring for my sick sister, and my sister is going back to being bedridden. The perfect ending. Yep, sure enough, they got the Isekai. That's another fallen angel checked off. So, how's their life gonna look? Do they not remember what happened, or do they just think it's a dream? Just a dream, then. Gotcha. Yeah, it was unclear how much do the people getting the Isekai actually remember. So, Hikari is back to being bedridden, and Yuriko is back to being tied by a chain to Hikari. Not the best ending for them, I gotta say. I mean, it's a feel-good ending, right? In that it's back to status quo, but now they understand it more and can take whatever pleasure and happiness from it. But it's not like good ending, right? A good ending would be if Yuriko lost her powers, maybe Hikari lost her powers as well, and they got to stay in this world, right? No longer sick, no longer tied by such heavy burden, and being able to live in this world however they please, right? Oh, sorry. So yeah, not the greatest ending for them. And also, it means that I have absolutely no idea what's the next episode gonna be. I thought we might stretch this arc for one more episode still. But as it is, we're gonna be left with a single episode just kinda hanging. Not enough to start a new arc. Not closing any arc. And finishing the season on a one-off doesn't feel great either. So I wonder what's it gonna be. Probably a hook into season 2, right? Right. So let's watch this one again right now, shall we? Yes, we shall. The cat bus. I hope he turns the cat back at some point. Yeah, Annette's clothes are basically a more saturated version of the priest clothes that everybody else has. Nira's clothes still look the best, I think. Tama. I'm still not a huge fan of the teal clashing with yellow. Right? Like, take away the yellow, and sure, I can see it working, but with the yellow bits, I don't know. OP. And, yeah, an otherworlder who was once instructed by Wolf. Now people call me the fallen angel of greed. Interesting that her element, quote unquote, that her power is greed. Not really, though. Or rather, I don't think her power is greed exactly. I think her power is taking back the youth, right? It really seems that's what it is. She takes youth away from the flowers, from the people, right? And it makes sense in context as to why she got here, why she was so profoundly sad that she got isekai'd. She got so sad because her youth was taken away from her. And so now her power is to take away others' youth, right? Makes sense in that way. Why can she control skeletons, though? I don't know. But apparently she can. Yeah, those are some CG skeletons, alright. Because that is what I desire, that's my gift, greed. I wonder, really. Yeah, we get her backstory. Wolf really kind of failed as a teacher here, didn't he? He really did. I think. Like, I really think that the biggest fault in this whole entire conundrum lies in Wolf, honestly. First, he was unable to notice the potential in Yuriko's powers. Right? Like, by just using her hands and aiming at a flower, she was able to make that flower die. Imagine if her ability grows and she can just point at the Demon Lord and be like, you sucking, and the Demon Lord crumbles to dust. Right? There is potential in her power that Wolf failed to notice for whatever reason. Then I will fight. You're a hard worker. I really thought all this time it's gonna be a story of unrequited love and essentially a romantic triangle, but no, apparently not. She wanted the bow. Another big chunk of why this whole situation happened is lack of communication, and in part on Wolf's side, right? On Wolf's part, because he absolutely could have communicated so many more things better. He could have very well brought both sisters together and say, talk it out, right? Hikari wants to fight because she has the power to do so, and she wants you, Yuriko, to live a free life, free from the burden. Do you want to do that? Or maybe do you want to team up? Or what do you want to do? Or do you just want to say, fuck the Demon Lord and do whatever you want to do, right? He should have done that, but he didn't. So in that, he absolutely failed as a teacher and a guide. Yuriko could have said, I want this bow, could you buy it for me? Sure. Wolf could have noticed it and perhaps bought it for her as a gift and said, here's a gift for all your hard work. But he didn't. After she appeared, my master changed. Yeah, another huge mistake on Wolf's part. Favoriting one of his students. Like, clearly, openly playing favors like that. Yep, you don't do that. You don't do that to your children, you don't do that to your students. I mean, you can do that to your students. I had my favorites when I was a teacher, not gonna lie. But I wouldn't have done that if all 20-something people in my class would have been walking WMDs, or had the potential to be a walking WMD. You can be damn sure that I would be treating everybody as equally as fucking possible and with as much leniency as possible. But Wolf didn't. That was when my own power blossomed. Amazing design to this monster. It's like a bird thing, but not. It has this like gaping maw open with skeleton arms. Such a cool design. And only the bow was left, the bow that she picked up and took for her own. My power probably would have remained locked away forever. Not necessarily. It really seems like it was dire straits, or whatever you defined as dire straits, that made the power blossom. So I could very easily see pairing up Yuriko and Hikari together, sending them to fight. And if Yuriko had to use her powers to save her sister, the powers would have awakened as well. For example, right? Example scenario. So yeah, again, Wolf kinda should have maybe tried that, but he didn't, again. Consumed by desire, I killed an innocent girl, I am no longer human. No. All that's left is to fall as far as I will. Right, amazing. Amazing fucking dynamic entry. Steam-powered, completely extra coffin. Like, why are those gears needed on the bumper? I don't know. They're just an extra. They're just an additional bit of steampunk here. I like that the chain drive of these side wheels actually makes sense, though. I really like this bit where the middle gear turns and transfers with the chain power to both of the wheels on each side. That's cool. That's a cool detail. Yeah, there's nothing to tension that chain. It could have used like some wheels up top and from the bottom, maybe on springs or something to tension it, but details. Really details. Do I see... I don't know if that's ambient occlusion errors. Maybe. On the right side here, there's like a thin strip of like dark artifacting. Again, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's just fun thing to notice. Amazing entrance. Self-propelled bed. And here comes the sister. Huh. Yeah, apparently they are sisters indeed. And we hear more of the story. I wonder which like age or period was this. This looks like 1800s-ish, maybe. Although I don't think they had trucks in 1800s-ish. So maybe like, I don't know, the 20th century. I don't know, I have no clue. Yeah, the clothes look like 20th century-ish. Vaguely. Stayed at her bedside and cared for her. Yeah, illness worsened, and yet she stayed there, skipping school, skipping everything, not having any time for herself. Oh, another point of failure in this entire conundrum. The father. He absolutely failed as a parent. Absolutely, utterly, and completely. Yeah, I cannot die until I've finished writing your story, of course. I've always hated you, stole my youth from me, so I was happy when I arrived in this world. And then you arrived again and you threatened to take away what I had. Take away the attention, take away the goal, take away everything of mine. Yeah, this is great. We have no role to play in the story of love I wish to write. Yuri authors to male NPCs in their story, am I right? He really has a way to be just silently menacing. I really, really like this aspect of his character and how he carries himself. Just walking forward, repeating, I am an author. I need to finish your story, completely unfazed by any damage, completely unfazed by anything. He's a menacing man. Absolutely and utterly. What I wanted, yeah, what I wanted was recognition. What I wanted was attention. What I wanted was freedom. As I said, the father completely failed. And that is something that is like, I don't want to say surprisingly common, because I have not seen any like, whatchamacallit, any like research on the topic or any, I don't know, surveys, or I myself have no like proper experience with that. But from osmosis, I guess you could say, from reading all sorts of stories and hearing to all sorts of stories, this is it's something that happens way too often. Because even if it happened once, single time, that would already be too often. Where one of two siblings is sick and the other sibling is turned into a full-time carer of the other one. And one of the siblings gets full attention, gets full parental love, and the other is just treated as a stay-at-home help. It happens a lot. and there are only two paths, and neither of those paths is great. Because the sibling that has to be the caretaker can either turn to quote unquote the bad side, right? And make up for all the responsibility that they have thrown onto them by becoming a bad kid, right? Skipping school, leaving home, running away, drinking, taking drugs, and what have you, getting into trouble. The other way is that the sibling dutifully is the caretaker, but then eventually grows resentful over that, and eventually they themselves are destroyed by it and get all sorts of psychological issues because their time was literally taken away from them. Their youth was taken away from them. My youth was not quite that bad, but in high school I struggled for like 2 years or so with like depression that literally had me trapped in my room because I would start hyperventilating as soon as I stepped through the door. And it was just a couple of years, and then I went back to high school, I finished college and whatnot, right? But I still, to this day, I still have issues coping with the fact that I lost those 2 years of my childhood, right? I lost the graduation ceremony. I lost, I don't know, all the trips and stuff that we could have had during that time, right? I still find it hard sometimes to cope with it. Imagine your whole life being that. It will destroy a person. And it absolutely destroyed Yuriko. And you can handle that well as a parent, absolutely. You can hire help, for example. You can work from home. Probably not possible in this time that they live in, but nowadays entirely possible, right? You could get other members of family to help, maybe. But you should never make one of your children a caretaker. In general, you really should not make one of your children take burden that children should not have. Whatever that burden is, it's one of the problems that children who are raised in families where one of the parents abuses alcohol, for example. The child is often parentified, right? They have to take care of things that no child should ever have to take care for, because that's what their parents are for. And it's the same here. And whenever you do that, as a parent, you failed your child. And whenever a child is a victim of that, they get issues later on. They get huge, big issues. Doubly so, since Yuriko actually cared, right? Like, if she didn't give a fuck about her sister, if she despised her completely and utterly, this would not be that much of a problem. She would perhaps even be happy in a twisted way that her sister almost died, which means that, hey, maybe next time she actually will die and I will be free of the burden. But no, she actually cares. And that's even more the burden on her, because she not only has the burden of responsibility that she shouldn't have being pushed onto her, but she also has the issue of being unable to reject that responsibility, because she would feel incredibly guilty if she did that. So she doesn't even have the ability to free herself from this burden. She doesn't have the ability to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna run away from home, I'm gonna start a new life, I'm gonna live under the bridge, whatever, but I'm gonna just completely drop my responsibility. She doesn't want to do that because she cares. And it completely and utterly entraps her. And then she gets this sort of a treatment from her father. Instead of, thank you for taking care of Hikari all this time. Now, today is your ceremony, graduation ceremony. I can't be there with you because, I took time off from my work. I have to stay here take care of Hikari, but you can go to the graduation ceremony, right? I bought you a nice bow that you can wear in your hair for this special occasion. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. It must be an incredible burden on you. I'm terribly sorry that I had to do that, but there is no other option, right? It could be solved well, or as well as possible by the father, but he's a piece of shit. That's what it is. I wonder how he reacted to Yuriko disappearing one day. Probably with, oh, I'm gonna have to find a different way to take care of Hikari. I'm gonna have to hire someone great. Right? That's probably what it was. Let's be honest here. I'm not a caring older sister, I'm greedy and hideous. And because you think that, that means you care. Paradoxically. It's like one of the best tests, I guess, for... what was it exactly? Things like, I don't know, sociopathy or narcissism or things like that, right? If you ask yourself the question, hey, am I having an issue with being narcissistic right now? It probably means you aren't actually narcissistic, right? Basically. Because you have the ability to criticize yourself in that way, to think of your possible faults. Someone who's wholly and entirely narcissistic would not see that. But you can, so you're not narcissistic, right? And that's the same thing here. You're not uncaring. You show very clearly that you care. Because you worry that you might be uncaring, that automatically means that you are caring. You wanted to be seen by someone, yeah, I mean, that's absolutely a desire of everybody. You aren't greedy, absolutely not. You're not greedy in wanting to have your life. That's the basic need, that's the basic desire. It's not greed to say, hey, I wanted to have a childhood. It's not greedy to say, I wanted a home that would not be dysfunctional. It's not greedy to say, I did not want to spend 24/7 caring for my sister. It's not greedy to say, I wanted friends. Those are basic needs of a child, of a teen, of anybody, no matter the age. It's not greed. It's absolutely not. Do you know why your sister was summoned to this world? Yeah, she lost her favorite sister. And she saw no hope in a world without her. Yeah? She followed you here just to see you again. Mm-hmm. Good introspection there, Wolf. Because he absolutely did. They started very well. I initially thought that, like, right from the get-go, Yuriko started with, oh great, my sister is here. But of course she wouldn't. She's caring. Her first thought was, how's your illness? Are you feeling any better? I'm so glad that you're feeling any better. But then Wolf started doing those, like, back alley deals, basically, without telling one what the other said, right? He heard Hikari request, hey, I'm gonna fight, sure, train me and whatnot, but I want my sister to live freely. And so Wolf allowed Yuriko to live freely without telling her so. So she continued training, she continued trying to get better, she continued having the hope of being one of the heroes who defeats the Demon Lord. And she didn't know that she was sidelined all this time. Yeah. Wolf really failed as a teacher here. Such a beautiful story shouldn't be completed by my hand. Right, you write tragedies and dramas, and this story ultimately has a good and positive ending. In a way. So yeah, doesn't fit you. the power got erased. This is the first time we see that, right? We've already seen a couple of other worlders being returned, but we haven't seen like the embodiment of their power getting shattered or erased or anything like that. Interesting. I wonder if it's specifically because her power has like actual physical form. Probably. And all the effects got reversed. You're probably meant to return to the place where you belong. Let's go home. And so they did. And so they are back to their daily grind of Hikari being bedridden and mortally ill, probably, and Yuriko being tied down to Hikari's bed with a ball and chain. But now they have a new outlook on all of that. That's good, right? Now, granted, we don't know what like actually changed in their life, right? It could very well be that the father actually hired some help. Sure, absolutely. It could very well be that Hikari isn't actually as sick as she used to be, or maybe she's completely healthy now. Absolutely could be. We aren't shown that. But I fear that it's supposed to be a sort of a feel-good ending rather than think-good ending in a way, I guess. Kind of like when I questioned the ending of the orphanage episode, right? Where, okay, it's supposed to feel good, we aren't really supposed to think about that. This is kind of like that, I think. Because, yeah, okay, we're supposed to feel good about, you know, they're back in their own world, they are happy, they are loving, they got through all the, you know, bad blood that was between them, now they can be loving sisters and whatnot. We aren't supposed to be thinking of the bigger picture here, but I can't help but do that. But I can't help but think of what's their situation right now, because sure, now they might be feeling all happy and giddy and whatnot, but did the fact that Yuriko is tied down change? Did Hikari's illness change? Right? I don't think they did, but we aren't shown either way, so really anybody's guess here. I'm generally not a huge fan of endings in the vein of, I don't know, a man works at a coal mine and is miserable in that coal mine, then goes through a journey of self-discovery and goes back to the coal mine, keeps mining coal, but now he has conviction to do that. Now he's happy to be mining coal, right? His miserable situation did not change whatsoever, but his outlook did, right? I'm really not a huge fan of things like that where people where the like whatchamacallit the lesson from the story is essentially any miserable situation can be fine if you change your mindset. No, it tells people to not try escaping their miserable situations. It tells people to not try changing their situations. It tells them to change their mindset. Oh, you're miserable at your underpaid intern job at McDonald's? Well, try not to be miserable, but don't you go looking for a better job. Absolutely not. Don't do that. Right? It's kind of this sort of a message that I'm basically not fine with. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's just it's just supposed to show us they're fine now, they're happy now. Whatever else happens, whatever their grander situation is, don't think about it. Assume it's good. Assume they're happy from now on, right? It's supposed to be something like that. So, sure, as this sort of an ending, it works. Yeah. They're both happy. They had a nice dream. A piece of paper from the pages that Sensei tore up probably fluttered its way in. There are the paper cranes. There's a book, maybe one by Osamu, I don't know. Right, good ending overall. Sure, I'll take it. Why not? There we go, that's the episode. So, that was episode 11 of Isekai Shikkaku, and I'm really... first, maybe about the episode itself. It was fun. I mean, fun. It was tragic, it was dramatic, absolutely. Was it fun? Kind of hard to say that a tragedy was fun, right? I always find it hard to, I don't know, give a like to a post on Twitter announcing that someone died, for example, because it's like, oh, the famous actor died. I like it. Like, right? I always have trouble with that. But it was a good episode. That's how I'm gonna say it, right? It nicely explored Yuriko. It gave us a nice twist as to who the old lady is that I completely did not expect. I really did not expect them being related in any sort of way. I saw the jealousy angle as possibility, right? Sure, but I really couldn't have predicted that this is how it's gonna go. So props to the show, because they completely subverted my expectation, while it also made perfect sense the way they did it. So that was cool. I love the steam-powered coffin. I hope we keep it. Not much more happened in this episode, really. It was mostly just a story of Yuriko and Hikari, a very tragic one, but also one that many children find themselves into. They really do, and it really sucks for every single one of them. So, this story really hit hard, because it was a story based on something that, you know, actually could happen, that actually happens on the daily. It's different when you have a story about a man who was miserable because he had everything. It's different when it's a story about a man who's crippled and then met a boy and grew friends with that boy, and the boy got beaten up and he himself got saved by that boy before, right? Like that, those things don't happen often. They don't happen usually. This situation where one of the siblings is parentified and thrust into the role of a full-time caretaker, it happens all too often. So it hits hard because it's real. I don't know, maybe one of you guys watching this show was actually in a situation like that. It wouldn't surprise me if someone was, or someone knew someone who was in that situation, because it happens. It really does. And it's the real stories that get to us the most, aren't they? Right? It's the stories that we can see ourselves living through. It's the stories that we know other people who have lived through. There was a particular storyline with a drunkard of a father in Princess Principal. That was a story that hit me hard because I could see a lot of myself in that, right? It's those stories that hit hard. That's why I always like it when stakes in stories are low. Or rather, when the stakes in stories are the life of a person, or the existence of a family, or something like that. Because the grander you go, the harder it is to imagine, right? Once you get to the stakes being the existence of the universe, it's like, yeah, cool. I can see the stakes you build there, right? I can see the Zargothrax, the universe devourer, as being a threat, absolutely, but it's something very abstract for me, right? I don't really have any reference of our universe having issue with a universe devourer, right? Meanwhile, I have experience with my friend who was abused as a child, and the story of a character who's abused as a child really hits close to me, right? So that really works. This story really worked for me. Right, I wanted to touch on what's coming, I guess. as well, because this episode nicely rounded off an arc for us. So I really wonder where are we going from here. Single episode, not enough. Actually, I'm gonna look it up if maybe season 2 is already confirmed. Because one single episode is not enough to start a new arc. There's no arc to close anymore, because, well, this closed an arc perfectly well. And like one timer, right? Like a single well-rounded episode ending on something like that instead of ending on a culmination of a bigger story. I'm not sure how that would work for a finale of a season. I guess we're probably gonna go for a no news about second season, by the way, not that I can find. We're probably gonna go for a bit of a rounding out. Why is my camera flickering still? I already reset it. Rounding out of the story so far, right? We're gonna talk to Wolf, we're gonna ask him about Satchan, we're gonna chart a new course, right? It's gonna be a transitionary episode like that. We might get some insight into Satchan, for example, her situation, the entire evil court or whatever. We might get to see Valdelia, maybe some story from her perspective, stuff like that, with probably a nice hook for the next season, right? We're gonna close off this season with a nice summary episode, and we're gonna get a nice hook for the next one. That's probably what's gonna happen. And I can see that my camera really doesn't like this recording for some reason, so I'm gonna end it right here. But first, you guys, you tell me, what did you think of this episode? Did the story hit close to home to you as well, or is it very abstract for you? How do you like the what do you think about the difference between very close human stories versus the blown out stakes? Do you have the same opinion as me, or do you prefer when it's the universe that is at stake? I don't know, I'm curious about your opinion, so tell me all about it in the comments down below. Like this video if you liked. Oh, no spoilers, almost forgot. Spoilers can go to my Discord if you'd like. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe to be notified of future videos, not only Isekai Shikkaku, but also Bye Bye Earth Ended, so Vistoria, Spice and Wolf, Konosekai wa Fukanzen Sugirukyue Isekai, plenty others coming in the future. Expect the seasonal stream soon-ish, in the matter of weeks. Support the channel if you want monetarily on Patreon down below, where for $10 a month you get early access to non-seasonal shows, and for $1 you get a role on the Discord and a place in the credits. You can also support me on YouTube directly, memberships, super thanks, super chats, and if you don't want to spend any money whatsoever, you don't have to. Share my content, spread the word, it costs you absolutely nothing and helps the channel a lot. And now with all of that out of the way, that's gonna be it from me for today. So as always, you guys do all the good stuff, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Cheers! And here's my wonderful Patreons: QB, Without a Ned, Zerene, Sam Greenwood, Yuki Ally, Dr. Watakamoser, Marsh Fassel, and Hans Peter. And you can join them if you want without having to lose your youth.